this video, I am going to share what you can do with your leftover fabric, even the teeniest, tiniest scraps of fabric, you know, the ones you used to throw away. And before we're done, I am going to make something really cute with what we're creating, so stick around. These are the types of leftovers I was talking about. Well, today we're actually making fabric from them. Unique, awesome, custom fabric that we're going to make using what is essentially waste. I'm not going to use any kind of stabilizer. My method is much more simple. I want soft fabric, just like you would get if you went to a store and bought it. Here's the mistake I see most people do. If you just place your scraps on top of another fabric and you try to sew them together, odds are most would just fall right off or have their ends sticking out. I would have to stitch every inch of it to keep them all in place. Well, there's another way to do it, and this is actually the way I found works best for me. This is my basic fabric. Nothing fancy, it truly is the cheapest fabric I had lying around. We will need our base fabric and something completely sheer that can actually work as a bit of a net to grab all our fabrics and keep them in place. I have this old curtain right here, but you can definitely use organza or just some sort of net. I kind of like that this mutes my colors a little bit. It allows me to use all my scraps without having to worry about it too much. We just place our net, our curtain, our veil on top of the fabric, our base fabric, and we are just going to sew on 3 sides and essentially making a pocket. Here's our little pocket, and now we just have to fill this all up with our scraps. I mean, how simple is this? You don't want a mountain of scraps, we want it to keep nice and flat. I like to start with the bigger pieces and then go a second layer with the tiny ones. And for the second layer, you can use anything you want, okay? You can use ribbon, thread, you can use those teeny tiny scraps, you can use selvage, you can use whatever you think will look nice and, you know, make a little bit of a pattern interrupt in the middle of all your scraps. You can even do a design, you know, you can write your own name if you want to. I don't advise it, but you can if you want. We could just throw all kinds of fabrics in here and be done with it. But I like to look at fabric. I have a fabric obsession. So to me, this is a lot of fun. I'm making kind of a mural. That's how I'm thinking this. So instead of just scattering them all around, I think it's best to start in one place and work your way to the other. Because once you're lifting this, you're moving all the fabrics around, and we don't want that. You can use just 2 layers of the sheer fabric and don't use the white fabric, but I will warn you, it is harder to control, okay? It's very easy to bend, and this base fabric just gives it much more stability and makes our jobs even easier. And please excuse my very ugly finger. It was kind of a birthday present. So on my birthday, I decided to get my finger stuck in a car door. So yeah, there's that. Happy birthday to me. This is just the first layer, okay guys? Don't worry if it's not absolutely perfect. Don't worry if it's not looking just the way you want it, okay? We will be adding a second layer after. Okay guys, first layer is done. It is looking very cute on its own, but I am not done yet. Now we start to add the teeny tiny details I was telling you about, the little crumbs of fabric, the threads, all that. So let's see. And you see where I'm going with this, right guys? I'm just scattering little pieces of whatever I have on hand to break the big chunks of fabric, okay? I want this to look like something completely else. I don't want us to be able to know where one fabric ends and the other begins. Mike, who is usually very prim and proper, is telling me I'm doing this too stiffly. So let's go to town with it, shall we? What do you think, guys? Is it looking cute or a hot mess? So essentially what we want is, by placing these teeny tiny bits, turn a bunch of scraps with a net on top into something completely different. This is completely out of my comfort zone. I have no idea what we'll get, but let's keep going. This is kind of a crazy method, but if it works, I mean, if it works, sure, why not? I like this color, and I think it will work really well with the colors we've gathered so far. Yeah, okay. So let's just throw some spaghetti at the wall and see if it sticks. What? I like that. Look at that, guys. Do you see? What a cute, awesome mess. And yes, guys, we are even using the thread. I mean, look at this. It's cute, right? And this is where I put all my trash essentially when I'm sewing, and as you can see, there's only white, no colors in sight. How wonderful is this? We really are using the whole thing. Our next step is to press this all in place, okay? Even though we're not using the adhesive, the heat actually makes the fabric stick together, and that works in our favor. We are using this very sheer, very artificial looking fabric, so we may want to test this before putting the iron on it. It may melt, but if it is the melting kind, all you need to do is use some baking sheet or a tea towel or something like that, put it on top and iron it anyway. Immediately it gets lower, it gets flatter, and it's like it stabilizes the whole thing. First step, we close our pocket. You can actually make a whole quilt backing using this method. I mean, can you imagine how special, how unique that will look, and how colorful too? You know what? I will definitely have to try that one. I think this is screaming free motion sewing, so that's what I'm going to do. It's a very important tip that I had to learn the hard way. Not all sewing machines need the dog feet down in order to free motion quilt. In fact, with my machine, if I were to lower the dog feet, which I totally can, it just ruins the whole thing. For my sewing machine, my dog feet needs to be up for me to free motion quilt. How about that? If I had used a colored thread, this would have been even more awesome. I didn't quilt this too much, so let's just trim all around and see what we get. Guys, we are not done yet, because now we are going to use this wonderful fabric we've created and make something absolutely gorgeous with it. Something you can give to a very special person. Can't wait, let's do this. So here's our fabric, right? Let's turn it around. So we need a 5-inch marking right here. And now we are just going to fold it over here. And now we want to turn it around and we fold it again, just like so. And now we want to fold this over like this. And now we're just going to stitch along both sides, okay? So this is the last side we've just folded, and we sew on both sides. Let's go. This is what we have. This is the last side that we folded, and now we're just going to fold this into two, and we are going to round both these corners, okay? We don't need them to be very round, and we don't want to catch the ones we have folded earlier, okay? So it's just right here. And now we are going to sew all along this line. And this is what we have. So now we just need to turn it inside out, okay? This is our round shape, and this is our other side, okay? So now what we need to do, you've probably guessed what this is. We are going to sew all around here, and then it will fold. Okay, so we are going to close this with Velcro, and you get to decide if you want to hand sew or machine sew, knowing that if you machine sew, particularly for the lid, it's going to show here, okay? And I don't want that because I have something in mind for this side, so I'm just going to hand sew it. This needle is already filled with glue, so yeah. Adhesive Velcro does not work, guys. It doesn't stick in place. The adhesive just loses its grip real quick, and it ruins all your needles if you have to sew through it. This is what we have. Our Velcro is in place, but I think we can add a little detail here. This is my button jar. Not all my buttons are here, but these are my favorites. Let's see. I don't really know what would work well. Maybe something darker. I think this one is actually perfect. And here we go, guys. This is what I'll be using when I'm going to take my watercolor brushes someplace with me. And that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a blast, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.